In this video, we'll be setting up two-factor authentication on the FortiGate unit. So this is another aspect about the FortiGate that I am very impressed with over the Palo Alto Networks and the Cisco ASA next generation firewalls. So if you're not familiar with two-factor authentication and what it is, well, it is something like this. When you normally log on to your computer on the domain or on a web page, you are using a static username and password. That means the password will always be the same each time you log in unless you change it. So for example, let's say that it is Monday and you log on to your computer and your password is Captain America. On Tuesday or even Friday when you log on, the password that you will use will be, yes, Captain America. It is a static password that does not change unless you manually change it. And this means that a hacker could easily know what your password could be and your username, and they can log on using your credentials. Well, using two-factor authentication, this means that you will still log on using your static username and your password, but you will also use what is called a one-time password or OTP. So this one-time password will be provided on a key fob or token, which will provide a random generated number that you would need to enter while logging in within a specific time period. And that number would not be generated again for that particular time and instance. So if the number on your token says something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that, and the hacker got their hands on it, it will be of no value to them because it will only can be used once. So as a result, they cannot log in. So using two-factor authentication is one of the most secure and reliable security options that you could deploy within your environment. And that is what we'll be setting up in this video. Before you get started, you want to make sure that your mail settings on the FortiGate is all set up, and we cover that in a separate video about the general configuration on the firewall. Next, in order to use two-factor authentication, you will need to have a token, which is called a FortiToken, and you can manage the tokens by going to User and Device and going to FortiTokens. And here you will see two default FortiTokens provided to us that we can use. If we need to have more, then we can purchase additional tokens, and keep in mind that only one token can be assigned to a single user. The token that you use can either be a hardware token, which is something like this, or it can be a mobile token, which is an app that can be installed on your phone for obtaining this one-time password. So using mobile tokens is probably the most commonly used because you will likely have a smartphone everywhere that you go. So if you want to add a new token on the FortiGate, for example, on this page, you will go to Create New. And here you will select if it is a hardware token or a mobile token, followed by the provided activation code or serial number depending on what token will be added. But in this video, we will be using a mobile token, which is one of the two provided tokens that we can use on our firewall. Now, in order to set up two-factor authentication, you need to use local accounts on the FortiGate, because we need to manually enable those accounts to use two-factor authentication. Well, we have the option of importing and using a user that already exists in our Active Directory domain. So we can import that as a local account, and we can do that by going to User Definition here under User. And here we have one local account, so we will create a new account. Okay, for the user type, we will select Remote LDAP User. Then we'll do Next. Okay, and here we will select our existing LDAP profile that we completed when we set up our user filtering based on active authentication. And we'll say Next. Okay, so for the remote user, we will go ahead and select one of our Active Directory users. Let's select Duncan Rockwell. And we'll say Next. And finally, this is a quick summary, and let's confirm and create this new remote LDAP user. With that completed, we need to enable that account for two-factor authentication. So let's edit that account that we imported, and we'll say edit user. And here we will enable two-factor authentication here at the bottom. Okay, then we can select one of the two available mobile tokens that will be dedicated for this user. Let's select one of these tokens. And next, let's add this user to our staff group. So we'll click this and we'll select our staff group. Okay. And for the contact information for the email address, we will enter the email where the new details of this new mobile token for activation will be sent to. We'll send that to my business account. And once we are done, let's go ahead and save our changes. Now let's go back into that account that we just edited. And here we will click on send activation code. And then we're going to send that to the email that we have specified for that account. So after a few minutes, we have received the activation email for Duncan Rockwell's mobile token. And this right here is the code that we would need to enter in the mobile app on our iPhone, or we can scan the QR code image that is attached. So make sure that the user has received a similar email before continuing. Next, let's go to our iPhone that we're connected to. And there on the screen, you see that we have installed the 40 token app on our phone, which is free, and you can get that from the App Store. Now, let's go ahead and launch the app. And once we do that, we're going to enter the key by scanning the barcode image. So we print it out, let's scan it. And now it is activated, and this will show the one-time password that Duncan can use within the next 30 seconds.